What's going on out there, everybody? All my African people out there. Had a good day at work today. I'm here to share this article with you guys. It's 3 pages long. It's called "The Rules of Engagement: The Code of White Supremacy," and it pretty much breaks down 10 rules of white supremacy and how white supremacy gets down. I'm pretty much going to read each rule. I'm gonna break down each paragraph, and I'm gonna give you guys an example on each paragraph, either from personal experience or what's been going on in the news, or experiences that I've seen happen to other people in the world, or experiences that I've seen in my neighborhood. So, rule number one is of the code of white supremacy is to keep them confused, them as us as Africans. Never let them know what you're thinking. Intentionally mislead them if you must. Take the news media, for example. It can be used as an instrument to mislead the masses. Basically, what that means is mislead not just black people, but mislead other ethnicities. Because their goal is to paint a picture of us as being a negative person. So they can either, downgrade us, not want to do business with us, or think of us as a negative group. Let's see, let's continue. Conspiracy theories also can be used as a confusing tactic to keep you unaware of what is going on around you. How many documented facts that were found and discovered about our African culture historically and civilization? How many documents we have that proves Africans are being exterminated globally? Eugenics or incarceration? Basically, what I just read about us being pretty much wiped off. It was these group of people south of Australia called the Tasmanian people. And the Tasmanian people was a group of Africans in the southern part of Australia that was completely wiped off by by white people and British. So pretty much, I haven't done the research on why whites and British destroyed all those people, because I just learned about the Tasmanian people not too long ago. But pretty much, that's what it was talking about when we were, or some of my people was getting pretty much exterminated and killed by those in power or white supremacy. And let's go back to the article. It says the news media are also used to exploit a bad image of Africans and positive images of Europeans. So basically what that means is, like I said to you earlier, paint a bad picture of Africans. But when they put the white people on TV, it's all like they are just these perfect people, which they're not, because the reason why they get away with being like that is because after they paint a picture of us as Africans as being evil or demonic or, lazy, then they're going to put a white person on television to make it seem like he's just this perfect being. All right, let's go back to the article. The media can also confuse and mislead its viewers to believe nothing but what it tells you. Education and religion can also be used as a weapon on black Africans by teach us to not succeed and remain subservient to white historical or literature culture. All right, that's rule number one. Rule number two is figure out their plans. Always try to figure out what black African people are thinking and planning, so you can disrupt and capitalize upon their genius. For example, remember the murder Trayvon Martin case a couple years ago? He was murdered by a vigilant neighborhood watchman. Trayvon was wearing a hoodie. He was holding a package of Skittles and a can of Arizona iced tea. The media capitalized off the protests by using Trayvon's props such as Skittles to market their consumers. The amount of money Mars earned, which is the Skittle purchases, was used to bail out Trayvon's murderer, George Zimmerman. That is why marching is a lose-lose tactic for black people, but a win-win for white people to divide, infiltrate, and capitalize on your organizations. So basically, what I got out of that is, you know, when Trayvon Martin got killed, a lot of us went to go buy hoodies. A lot of us went to go buy Skittles. A lot of us went to go buy iced teas, and we protested. And then on the media, they showed the hoodies, they showed the Skittles, they showed the iced teas. Now you know how when the item is on TV and it's popular, what do? You go buy it. You go buy what's popular on television. Why? Because it's an ongoing trend. Even though they use this ongoing trend in a tragic moment, it still capitalized money. So for that brother to lose his life due to what happened, the money was still generating. More skills was brought, more hoodies was brought, more iced teas was brought. So what this article mean by why marching is a lose-lose tactic for black people, but a win-win for white people to divide, infiltrate, and capitalize on your operations. Protesting is powerless. It doesn't get you anywhere. Because after we march 6 days, protest for 6 days, loot for 6 days, or whatever we do, we still got to deal with white supremacy. We still got to deal with the negativity of white supremacy. We still got to deal with police brutality. Like I told you guys before, white supremacy is an umbrella. And it consists of multiple things under this umbrella. Police brutality, hatred, discrimination in the jobs, economic castration, police brutality, the Tuskegee Project when they treated Africans like lab rats, Black Wall Street that crippled our economy significantly. So yeah. Rule number 3: play nice. Always appear friendly and humanitarian to black African people. Never appear to be aware that you belong or identify with the race that rules. African, Coney, NAACP, etc. has similarities to this rule. These are organizations that are created or controlled by European superior as they care. So what that means is, yeah, NAACP might come to a rally or support a rally or so on and so forth, but it's funded by white money. So when something is funded by white money, it must go, how can I say this? It must do what the money tells them to do. Or the person that funds them, they gotta follow their train ship. So let's go back to the article. But it is their agenda to control, colonize, divide, and exterminate the black population. They can also use the exceptions of multiculturalism as a tactic to divide and conquer. For instance, Dr. Martin Luther King "I Have a Dream" speech has impacted millions to unite under the banner of civil rights and integration while being segregated. Black-owned businesses were prevalent. Now the black dollars was dispersed into every other race of people, economic wealth but their own. Only 1/2 of 1% of wealth black people have not financially prospered since the civil rights movement. Until we have equally in our own wealth and have our own institutions, we are not equal. So what I got out of that sentence is, we're quick to say we equal to white people. We're quick to say we equal to Asians. We're quick to say we equal to Mexicans. But we don't have not one goddamn school. We have 19 black-owned banks. In order to have a black-owned bank, you must own an African or a black person must own at least 51% of the bank or the control seat. We don't have our own educational system, which consists of our own curriculum. We don't have a lot of black-owned businesses, and we don't have our own hospitals, and so on and so forth. So we'll never be equal because we don't have what the other ethnicities as the or the dominant society have. All right. So let's go back to the article. Remember, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also said in his speech, I fear I have integrated my people to a burning house. Remember that whenever they come to you with that tired MLK facade. That's rule number 3. All right. Rule number 4. Look for one who is willing to sell out. Look for black African people you can use to advance your cause. Let's stop right there. Let's look at every time a tragic moment happened in our community. They always have this one African person or a white or African police officer always talking about, well, what about black on black crime? We need to stop talking about protesting and worry about black on black crime. You know, we have celebrities that get paid from the dominant society that don't support our cause. It to them is finance and cooning first. You know, they will trade your ass in a heartbeat. So that's what they mean by individuals that's willing to sell out. And let's go back to the article. This should never be difficult because most of them identify with their oppressors. That means that we quick to go to massa. All right, let's go back to the article. Why are most black Africans identify with their oppressors? It comes from being conditioned through childhood in schools, white history, Christopher Columbus bullshit, Marco Polo bullshit. What else? What else? It's all in history that they taught us in schools. The reason why they can teach us that bullshit in schools is because they control the institutions. Let's go back to the article. In churches, white Jesus. So I want to touch on this subject about this white Jesus. Dr. Omar Johnson said this. He said, if you have a child from age 1 to 5 and you pretty much show him white Jesus and you take him to the church and they got white Jesus, from 1 to 5, you're pretty much brainwashing him mentally to think that, of course, Jesus is God, which is the highest pinnacle, the highest person, our Lord and Savior, supposedly. So he gonna think this, and he gonna grow up thinking that white people are superior to him because God is their color. So not only are you brainwashing your child mentally and having them think that Jesus is white, he's gonna grow up and he's gonna think that white people are superior to him or her. So he's gonna think that the police are superior to him. He's gonna think the judges are, the teachers. And he's going to think that, well, since Jesus is white and my granny been taking me to church all my life and Jesus was the number one person that she loved, and I must think that white people must be Jesus because that's all I know. It wasn't a black Jesus in my household. This is how he or she is going to think as a child growing up. And let's go back to the article. It says, in the media, white standards, black exploitation. Now, what that means is, of course, the media, television programming, they show white people being all great, and then we have shows like Empire and Scandal of us showing us being ratchet. And when people see that, they think that that's how we carry ourselves. Let's go back to the article. And in their home, self-hatred, that's very, very common in the African community. We have a lot of us wearing blonde weaves. We want to look European. We want to wear contacts. We want to get mad at other black men that date white women, but you want to be white yourself. And we have a lot of insecurities. Like I said before, self-hate is not a good thing to carry. It causes stress, of course.